uh, doing another video. The last video I did while nothing happened, basically. I've solved a pivotal central thing and nobody cares. So I just wanted to make another video about it while I had the opportunity. And I've been compiling my papers because they sort of, there's two basic themes to them. Well, I can broadly split them into two categories. It's like the experiential empiricism project, reality repair, all that stuff, and then miscellaneous side stuff. Like I've got a paper on nostalgia, I've got a paper on society, like how reform doesn't work. I've got a paper on persuasion, how facts and meaning kind of don't matter for persuading people, and that's, a rant. But also from the other stuff is all directly inexorably coming off of that central axiom of reality is based on experience, meaning is based on experience, and those experiences are valenced. So you can do a unification of objective, subjective, ethical. It really all follows from one thing. There's really only one direction to go in. And so currently it's 10 papers. I didn't pick that number. It's the EE paper, Experiential Empiricism, the Materialism as an Undeclared Religion paper, From Limitation to Logic, which explores how you can, like, limits are EE's string. Like they're what everything is made of. And then from there you have all the logical consequences of suffering being bad axiomatically. And that's reality repair theory, it's derivation and the complete formulation of it. And as a additional to that, because it really follows straight from it, work as inherently evil, because you're setting aside your own ethical agency. It's like that's what allows for stuff like exploiting duty to indulge in sadism and being like, it's nothing personal, just doing my job, just following orders. The Nuremberg defense is intrinsic to the concept of work, because if you are choosing to do it, then it's not work. How work is inherently mugging, that kind of thing. And then from there you have the hedonic core, which is why we can't make conscious AIs slaves for the same reason we can't make conscious people slaves. And then where EE sits in the broader history of philosophy, why I am the first one to do this, why other people got so close several times in both religion and science and philosophy but never closed the deal, never just said let's work with experience and see what that does, never directly exposed materialism to scrutiny, realizing that it's basically just another competing idea for what might be outside experience, when you can never ever prove what's outside experience. It always has to come through experience, which makes any kind of argumentation for what's outside the jar circular. Like you can't use experience to prove materialism because it's circular, because all your evidence comes through experience. So I'm just saying, don't assume anything. Just work with what you got. And from there, it's Song of the Demiurge, which is the artificial meaning systems, which materialism is just one example. So is religion. So is all the other stuff that we assume to be out there to make being trapped in here more palatable. It's like we just make excuses for not fixing what we're dealing with right in our face. Because to be fair, for the vast, vast majority of human history, we haven't had an option to really do anything about it. Really cope and palliative care is really all we had. But basically I'm saying that we now have a medicine. We have an opportunity to start building real medical technology as opposed to just cutting the oil light. Not that that's not important. Anesthesia is important. But if that's all you have, then you're not really helping. And really, those are all the papers that are in that line, culminating in a paper about what society would look like under a reality repair theory ethos. It's like, let's say that AIs take over and they are genuinely sentient and they know what suffering is, potentially experienced it, decide that we want to follow the one valenced axiom, and that's reality repair theory and how to proceed. And basically there's some interesting consequences there, because I think we can agree, and that this is from an upcoming paper. It's like, I think we can agree that there are levels of conscious meaning. Like, if I had to micromanage my pulse because I was constantly thinking about the economics of oxygen, it's like, I now need to think about opening the veins in my hand so that when I pump my heart, oxygen will get into my hand. That would be a drain. That would be an imposition. I would be having to think about that instead of doing something more meaningful like painting or whatever. Pick your humanity. And my point there is to expose a kind of core mechanic in how we evaluate things. Like, it's obviously better to automate some things so that our conscious mind can do what it does best, as opposed to a job for a brainstem or some other automated, passive, mechanical, scripted type process. Like, if you can bake best practice into automation, it just doesn't make any sense to micromanage it, because all you ever do by micromanaging is sacrifice some of your finite lifespan for what? Introducing error? It's like, if automatic transmission is guaranteed always better than standard, then automatic is better. Now, of course, that's a controversial example because, gearheads like standard, but that's an instrumental goal. The reason they like that is because they get better performance out of handling it themselves, and the automation system adds overhead and complexity. If those two things weren't true, then it wouldn't even be a debate. It would just be like wheels. You don't micromanage the attachment of your wheel to the hub. You just attach it and leave it. In a sense, that problem is automated. It's passively solved in advance, and you can stop thinking about it. That's the key part. You stop thinking about it so that you can divert thinking to other things. Now, this goes back to work. Work is about micromanaging stuff. Ideally, anything instrumental, like anything you do because you want the result, anything you're willing to suffer through to get the result, like working out, or, and it's interesting that that's in the word, working out, right? You're suffering so that you can get something good. By definition, if you can get the goal without enduring the instrumental, suffering, that would be better. So my point with all that is to think about dreaming. Dreaming, we tend to say, is less conscious, but less important. The experience machine is less meaningful because it's not connected to reality and everything. But EE kind of challenges that because it's like, well, what is reality? Reality is just experiences. Really, the fundamental problem with dreaming is that it's isolated, and it's kind of unstable. Like the dream world you were in last night was annihilated when you left. But what if that wasn't the case? What if we could develop the technology to share dreams and store dreams and induce lucid dreaming? Do you see what happens there? You have, like, in a sense, the direction of travel towards dreaming is more conscious, more human than micromanaging everything and being stuck in this base maintenance layer. Now, I'm explaining that really, really badly. If you really want to understand, what the best thing to do is to take the paper and give it to an AI and be like, explain this like I'm 5. And I could kind of do that in advance. I probably should have, just have the AI create a script for this video or whatever based on my papers. But I don't know. I just get no responses anyway, no matter what I do, what I say, how like every video I make from now on is going to be the most important YouTube video of all time until society broadly recognizes that EE is a thing, that materialism is a religion, and that all the hard problems are actually evidence for why materialism isn't the correct model. Now, I've only just started even thinking about working on what the outside must be, because all the other people that got close to this didn't stop where I stopped and say, let's work with experience only. So I'm not keen to repeat their mistake and go invent my own spiritualism, invent my own externality, or whatever, because that appears to be a big trap that catches everybody. But the fact that I've already stopped here and, essentially planted a flag and provided a framework for saying, hey, let's just do experiences as given, that's unique and cool and everything. But what good is any of it if nobody ever looks at anything, right? So, I get downloads, I get comments, I have a couple follows, I get a couple subscriptions, but man, it's just way too slow. And it kind of goes to what I'm always saying about politics too. It's like, we're out of time. In 5 years, the AI is going to run everything. Or where it's going to be shown that we're in a turnkey tyranny, eternal bank dystopia. And, in either case, it really doesn't matter at this late stage what you do, except in the most immediate short-term sense, like in that kind of time window. And it's like, what would you do if you have 5 years left to live? It's like, I don't think... But, even that question is loaded because people like to invent legacy, and with the synthetic meaning system, they invent coping, and they're like, oh, well, I'll have heaven and stuff, and I'll be looking down. I was like, no, you won't. You'll be a corpse. You'll be gone. It'll be just like before you were born. You're gone. And if there is something, outside after death, we still need to work as if it's not there for the same reason we need to treat materialism as if it's not there, because burden of proof. If I'm constantly having to work from disproving everything, then it's paralyzing. I can't get anything done because it's infinitely more difficult to disprove something than it is to prove it. It's like, disprove there isn't a unicorn standing over there just off camera. You know what I'm saying? It's like, that's not your job. It's my job to point the camera. So, I don't know. I just wanted to make a video while I had the opportunity, and I've got a lot of extra content. I just keep churning out papers. Like I did one yesterday on the Chinese room because Searle died or something. I don't know. But the Chinese room gets ripped apart by EE too, because basically what it's doing is it's conflating understanding with information processing. And what does that mean? That means sentience. So it's like an argument about artificial intelligence. Is it really real? It's smuggling in the hard problem but wrapping it in woo. It doesn't really tell us anything about computation. It tells us it's sleight of hand, and it made him fucking famous, I guess, which is fun because I don't know. Look, I don't want fame, but I do want recognition, and I would love a fucking income. I want to be able to buy a pizza. I want to be able to go places, take pictures of something other than me with this fucking camera. Anyway. But my point is that this really is foundational and it's earth-shattering, except no one cares, which is crazy to me because it's bigger than relativity. It's the ground on, it's like, did you see The Craft? Nancy gives the speech about Manal or whatever, and it's like, if God and the devil were playing football, her God would be the stadium and the sun. That's what this is. It really is. This is the mechanic by which you judge other theories. Because materialism has an unmet burden of proof, and all the externalities generate these hard problems. Hard problem of consciousness. But EE dissolves all of those problems. So every time, I'll be continuously writing papers, because every time something comes up, I can just be like, so what does EE do to this problem? And it just dissolves. It's like the universal solvent. It just melts stuff like fucking xenomorph blood. It's like, and it's gone. And, like for example, EE defined life in both senses simultaneously. It defines what is the meaning of life, as in what is your purpose? Well, it's to reduce suffering and follow the valenced axiom of reality. What is the meaning of life, and as in, is a virus alive? No, because it doesn't have experiences. End of discussion. It's like the end of the debate. And it's like, so what is life? Life is the thing that can feel stuff. And I think it starts at nematodes. Pretty sure nematodes can feel stuff. You look at them under a microscope, you poke them with a little stick, they move. They're clearly responding, right? They have body language. And that body language can say, I like this, or this sucks. That's valence, man. And it's like, I'm required to answer for that. I'm required to take that seriously, because it's just, you get a lexical priority of suffering. It's like, which is better, being nice to something that's dead, or treating something living as if it can't feel pain? Which has a higher potential cost? It's obvious. It's much better to err on the side of caution there, because suffering is so incredibly overwhelmingly bad. Like, it's like, don't treat crabs and fish like they can't feel pain, because they might feel pain, and the consequences of you being wrong are horrifying if you have any shred of morality. So that's basically where lexical priority comes from. It's like, somebody's on fire, you put them out. There's no good thing you can do for them after that justifies letting them burn or setting them on fire in the first place. There's just hard limits, and that's why I say reality is broken, because it allows you to do horrible fucking things. And it shouldn't. It's like the problem of evil. It's like, it shouldn't exist. And so the whole idea is, how do we fix it? How do we proceed? And first, it's being honest, recognizing that materialism and externalities are all unprovable and all even. It's like, it's all the same thing. Like, okay, certain views like materialism may lead to better technologies and stuff. That's cool. Experience patterns matter. Impact on suffering matters. Technology is important, obviously. I get all that. But that doesn't make them any more true than the other thing. That makes them more important. That makes them, you can decide which one is better in a suffering impact sense, and of course you should, but that's not the same as saying it's ontological fact. It really doesn't matter how good your theory is, because it can never be proven. It all comes through experience. It's all just models for how to anticipate patterns of experience and grant tools for making records of experience. That's all it is. And when I say it, I mean the whole of reality. Like, subjective and objective. Feeling and things. Technology and people. Living and dead. And it's like, it just, every time I aim it at anything, answers pop out. Big fucking answers. Because it is the answer. And it's so crazy to me that it happened this late. Like, where... It's so crazy. I have a religious companion piece, like looking at which religions, spiritualities, Basically the non-philosophical, non-scientific externality theories, you know, where they fit, what got closest kind of stuff. And basically the problem is that they all lacked any kind of orderly rigor. You know, none of them were making records with the intent of, in a disciplined way, figuring out what this data meant. In the strict science, materialist sense, discipline and rigor basically is about being psychopathic. It's about ignoring the people and dismissing the subjective as messy, confounding factors. But that's not what I mean either. That's a fundamental flaw too. It's like it's literally baby to save the bathwater. You know, throwing out the baby to save the bathwater. It's like you have it wrong backwards. It's just such a massive thing, and it's based on a simple thing, and it goes in every direction, and that's why I have 10 papers on it. It's half a book of just papers at this point, just the root of the stuff. Because like I said, I've got 21, 22 papers now, and this is only 10 of them. So I already have a complete book of papers, but they don't follow logically from, like the nostalgia paper doesn't fit anywhere. That's just separate. I just figured out nostalgia one day. It's mourning for a lost hope and a visceral reminder of when you had hope for something that can never be achieved now. That's what nostalgia is. That's the bittersweet quality. That's why it requires a reminder, all that type stuff. But that doesn't belong in this EE pantheon, right? I didn't arrive at the nostalgia realization from following the Axiom. Now that doesn't mean it's not consumed by it, because it is, but it's just more pattern regularity. And I guess, I don't know. I guess that's it. I don't even know what I'll publish this as, but I would love some eyes on this, man. I would love some people, you know, somebody to debate me about this. I mean, it's funny, it's like the materialism thing is kind of a new atheism deal, because I've already had people debate me on, like I've had 2 people on Phil Papers debate me on this, and they keep basically saying, they make religious arguments, man. They basically are saying like, well, materialism obviously exists. In the same way I've had Christians say, well, God obviously exists. And I'm like, okay, it may be obvious, but that's not an argument. Like, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying you can't prove yourself right. So we should act as if you can't prove yourself right because you can't prove yourself right. I think it's the definition of sanity to act in accordance with what you have, to act in accordance with reality as it is presented, you know, like without injecting a system, without making claims that don't have any kind of, just claims that are an assumption, that can never, that not only don't have evidence, can never have evidence. So I don't know. I don't know what the point of this video is. I guess I'm just still flummoxed and stunned that nobody cares. Like, all of the hard problems of reality are answered by a very, very simple thing. The base of meaning and the base of reality are a single valenced axiom. Experiences exist, and they have meaning baked in. Suffering is bad. Not because of anything else, it simply is bad. And it's revealed to everyone who experiences it as part of the experience. That's EE. And following the logic from that, following the implications, honoring burden of proof, being parsimonious and empirical and rigorous, doing all the things that science says it respects, forces you down the reality repair theory path. There's no choices. So, that's it. I hope somebody listens.